Okay, folks. Hello. This is the Nutty Knife Guy. Now, I'm kind of filming in reverse. I went outside to the war post this time. I finally got a break in the weather that wasn't horrible. So I ran out there real fast and did the war post first. And then I'm filming this introduction. What I'm bringing to you today is the Combat Ready Company, is what they call themselves, Sub-Hilt fighting knife, model CBR 111, made in Pakistan. There's a little Combat Ready logo. There's a made in Pakistan. This is a budget knife. It's $20. 7-inch blade and 420A steel. It's got aluminum hilt and sub-hilt, aluminum pommel, and skull crusher. Like I said, it cost me about 20 bucks from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. And I have just gone out to the war post and played with this a little bit. Now, everybody that's been watched this channel knows I love sub-hilts, which is really why I bought this. It is a very attractive knife in my opinion. I don't know what kind of wood this is. It looks like it might be walnut, but I'm not an expert on that type of thing. But it's just a very attractive knife. It's got a nice little recurve, and it did come shaving sharp. And I don't know if I have any arm hairs left because I'm always testing my knives for sharpness, but we'll see. And now there's nothing you're going to be able to see on the camera, but it did take a few hairs off. I have to take my word for it. But anyway, I don't have a whole lot of hair on my arm right now anyway because I actually bought a few new knives lately, and you know, knife people got to test it, right? And then you got to test it again because it's just so cool to see all that arm hair on a new blade. But it did, even after I beat it on the war post, which you shall see, it held up fairly well. So the positives about this knife: it's pretty, it's a sub-hilt. The steel is a good 420. It's probably not but good 420, but it's a nice 420. The blade's not even scratched up. The bad. And I knew this pretty much as soon as I took it out of the package and started playing with it. Finger grooves on the handle. I never like finger grooves on the handle on any knife. But this one is particularly bad because of the placement of them things. Now this might be different for different hands, but I don't have small hands. I'm not a small person. And the grooves just don't, there's no way I can hold this where the grooves get into my fingers, where my fingers can get into the grooves. My pinky winds up, my pinky, and my last two fingers, my pinky and this one over here, always wind up in this bottom groove. And if I don't, and that makes it makes it hard for getting my forefinger into the sub-hilt right. And when I was chopping at the war post and slashing at the war post, it was actually kind of slamming my finger into the back of the sub-hilt repeatedly. And because you can't get a great grip on a knife, the sub-hilt is sharp enough where it digs into the fingers, digs into the side of your fingers. And the more you use it, the worse that problem gets. So what they've done is they've poorly executed my beloved sub-hilt. And I honestly don't know why you would want to put finger grooves on a knife, finger grooves on a knife that has a sub-hilt. They cancel each other out. If you have the sub-hilt, you do not need the grooves. And any time they put grooves on a knife, anytime they put grooves on a knife, they are telling you how to hold a knife, and that is also very annoying. But that is really the only drawback to the knife itself, is just the handle is really badly designed. Now, like I said, I put it through some pretty good use. I did my standard angles of attack with thrusts. I did some just straight chops, which again you'll see, and no dents on the blade. Nothing came loose. So that's a good thing, and it was still sharp enough to make feather sticking and to make a vampire deterrent. And I suppose if you had to use this to defend yourself against zombie lizardmen ninjas or lizard zombie man ninjas or zombie lizardmen ninjas, anyway, an opponent would of course be completely fictitious. You can get away with this because you're not going to be chopping up against a hard piece of wood, and it probably would be okay for that. But even when I was doing a little bit of carving to make a vampire deterrent, those hot spots in a poorly designed handle made it very uncomfortable. Now granted, it's cold outside, right? But it wasn't raining, so I went outside. But it was cold, and my hands were starting to get very sensitive because of the cold, and it just made the hot spots worse. Now, as I said, and I said this before, but I'll go over it now, but all they say this is a Sub-Hilt fighter is what they call it, combat-ready Sub-Hilt fighting knife. If you go down if you find this on Smoky Mountain Knife Works, it said best used hunting. Now, I think that the blade, again, would be fine for that. I think it's a little large for a hunting skinner. And I don't know how that this recurve, because does have a slight recurve. I don't know what that would do for skinning. I haven't hunted in years myself. But again, if you were using this to skin something big that took a while, this would be, these hot spots, this handle design would be a problem. Now for $20 I'm not complaining. This is not something that I'm going to be carrying every day. This is a collection piece. It looks really good in the collection. I think it's got the nice red spacers, the red and blue spacers in it. And maybe the Combat Ready company meant it for that, but you would think that if the Combat Ready company, if you call yourself the Combat Ready company, I think maybe your blade should be combat ready. And I suppose this is kind of, sort of, but even for $20 there are better options for a fighting knife. My best friend and constant companion, it was only $25, the Smith & Wesson SW7, and it's not made of super steel and everything like that, but for personal protection against lizardmen, zombie ninjas, this do me just fine. It's got a good solid grip. It's rubberized. It doesn't go anywhere in the winter. The sheath has good retention, and this is $25, and it's a much better fighting knife than this one is. So there are better options out there even for $20. Now I have a combat ready karambit over in my collection, and that's actually quite good. That's something for a lot of legal reasons, I don't carry a karambit, but even if you're a law enforcement officer, if you wanted a karambit for a firearm retention knife, it's thin. The karambit is thin, it's light, and it would do the job. It's not meant for heavy use. It is meant for personal protection, and it's designed to handle that kind of stress. Building this as a fighting knife, when the handle is this poorly designed and you can't get a proper grip, it doesn't work in saber grip, it doesn't work in hammer grip, it doesn't work in handshake grip. Reverse grip is just a nightmare. You couldn't call this combat ready. You just can't. Yeah, I know, it's just a company name, and it's only $20. But this is one of those frustrating knives, because if they would have put a little bit more thought into it, this could have been a really good knife. Though there is absolutely nothing wrong with the blade. The blade is nice. It's got a good recurve, good slicing. It pierces fairly well, but well, I don't know if it pierces well, but I mean, it's got a nice acute point. It didn't do well in my stab it into the wood and hold its own weight test. But that's another thing. Excuse me for just a second. Okay. This thing is also really, really blade heavy. Its point of balance is just awful. I can't really show you here because I can't balance it on my finger. It's too round. But it's blade heavy. And a fighting knife of this size should not be blade heavy. It should have its weight in the hilt, so the tip can be brought online easier. It should be nimble. This is weighted way in the handle, and that worries me. I was almost expecting to break this, because if you look at how much wood there is in this handle, and you have the aluminum Sub-Hilt, and aluminum pommel, and this big old skull crusher down here, I expected this to be handle heavy, but it's not. It's blade heavy, and that makes me have some questions about the tang. That tells me that the tang is either really, really thin or really, really short. Now, it did hold up against everything I did to it, but as I said, I test my knives as fighting knives for the most part, with feather sticking and vampire deterrent secondary, really just to see how the edge held up after I bounced it off the war post. So I am not entirely sure about the tang and how this is secured to the handle. And they don't really, unless I missed it, they didn't tell you in Smoky Mountain Knife Works or anywhere else I found this knife whether it was full tang or not. Having said that, fit and finish. Finish is excellent. As I said, this is a beautiful knife. A teeny tiny fit issue is, for me, there's a little bit too much of a gap where the knife goes into the handguard here, where the tang goes into the handguard. It's a minuscule issue, and for a $20 knife, I'm not going to complain, but it's there. It came with a pretty nice sheath. This is a leather sheath. It's fairly flexible. Got that new leather smell. Looks pretty good, actually. It's got good double stitching. Well stitched on the loop. And it looks like the retention strap is good. But like a lot of these budget knives, and other knife reviewers such as Donnie B all day will say, why do they always want to put the retention strap where you stand a chance of the knife cutting into your strap every time you take it out of the sheath? I don't know why they do that. And again, this one, the strap's not on, and it has pretty decent retention, so you kind of have to give a little English. Not much, but you have to give a little tug, especially when it's tucked in your belt, to get this out, which is going to increase the chance of taking a gash out of your retention strap. It makes so much more sense to put it on the other side. I don't know about that. But the sheath, for a $20 knife, I mean, you can see aftermarket leather sheaths, or universal leather sheaths for almost 20 bucks by themselves in some places. So, my overall thing about this is a bit of disappointment. It's not a bad knife. I'm not sorry about it for $20, but if if it would have been designed better, if they would have just put a little bit thought to how it feels in the hand, how it's going to move in the hand when it hits something, because all knives do. This could have been a great knife. This could have become one of the favorites in my collection. But it doesn't, because this handle design is awful. It actually hurts to use this thing. It doesn't hurt a lot, but I think if you were using it for a while, it would start to hurt a lot. It would get to be a real problem. And of course, as I said, this thing is so blade heavy that it makes me wonder how much steel is in the tang. Either thin or short is my guess. I have been contemplating making a project out of this in the summer and grinding off these finger grooves, restaining and re-lacquering them to make this more comfortable. Because I think if you got rid of the finger grooves and you could really wrap your hand around this without getting these hot spots that the finger grooves cause, it could be really good. But the thing of it is, I'm not really good at that stuff, and I might wind up just completely ruining my knife. Of course, for $20 I can buy another one, right? I'll let you know about that. All in all, I would give this knife a C+, B- grade. Not sorry I bought it, but I was hoping, I was hoping for something more, and for a $20 knife, that was probably false hope. But what can you do? So that's it. If I get decent weather well, I'm not going to be doing anything Thursday or Friday. If I get decent weather Saturday, I might, and I say again might, be able to go out and do my Tractor Supply survival knife review that I have been talking about forever. Why didn't I do it this time? Because quite frankly, this was a Sub-Hilt and I thought this was cooler, and I just got this a couple of days ago. But, so, I will say to you, as I always do, to remember to draw your knives only in just purpose. Sheathe them only in honor. And remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. I will see you in the next video. Okay, we'll start with a bottle. I happen to have a water bottle this time, so we'll see how this combat ready Sub-Hilt fighter works. Okay, not too bad. Bring it over closer so you can see that. That's a pretty clean cut. I don't know how good I am. I can't see my screen because of the glare. That should be on there. And see if I can finish this off with another whack, and then we'll get to the war post. Okay, not too shabby that way. Okay, now I'll back you off a little bit. Didn't get that in frame. Let's beat up this blade a little bit. What do you say? I'm going to get over here so I don't hit the pole. I need to get you centered a little bit more. Okay. Okay, there's the edge after beating it up a little bit. I don't see any blemishes, so this is a fairly decent 44A steel. I am noticing though, as much as I love Sub-Hilt, because of the design of this handle, which I've already covered, this, you have a really hot spot here when this makes impact because of these stupid finger grooves. But it's not a huge issue and it's not bad. Let's see some good hard wax and some good hard thrusts. We'll try that one again and see if we can get it to support its own weight. That's the tip. Now it's just not going to do that. It's more about the blade geometry than anything else. But again, I've been whacking it pretty hard, and there's no blade problems and no tip problems. Everything's still tight, but this handle, if you're doing any kind of chopping or slicing with it and you're swinging halfway decent, it gets to be very uncomfortable in a hurry. Now they list this as a combat ready Sub-Hilt fighting knife, but when it says its uses on Smoky Mountain Ice Work, it says hunting. You could skin with this, but a lot of people consider a hunting knife a camp knife too. And just because this handle is so uncomfortable when you're doing tasks like chopping or something like that, it's not really good for that. Let's see about a vampire deterrent. Now, like I said, this did come shaving sharp. I can't get to my arm here right now, but it did hold an edge. It's still pretty sharp. Let's see if we can do a vampire deterrent. Well, while we're doing that, we'll see if we can get a little few curls out of it. Yeah, you're getting good curls. Get that knot out of there, you will. So feather sticking would be okay with this thing. Let's try the choil. Yeah, the choil makes feather sticking pretty cool. Okay, let's see about a vampire deterrent. This handle is very uncomfortable. The more I use it, the more I dislike it. This doesn't want to bite for this. Like I said, it's still decently sharp. It's just, for some reason, it's hard to get this blade to bite. It might just be finding the right spot on it, because it does have a recurve. And there is one pesky knot right at the end here where I want to carve. And it is cold out here, even though the sun's shining for once, so my hands aren't really wanting to cooperate with manual dexterity. See if I can speed things up here. My stick's fighting back. And get this a little sharper. Okay. I mean, I could sharpen this down more, but it will work. The handle's a real problem, though. I have fairly decent hands, but you'd have size hands. You'd have to have pretty giant hands for this to be comfortable. The sub-hilt, there's too much space between the hilt and the sub-hilt, and the finger grooves just will not align to my fingers. And that means the blade shifts in the hand because this pretty wooden handle is smooth. And when you're using it tends to slam your finger up against the back of the sub-hilt. And that's unpleasant. And also, you wind up getting your fingers kind of slammed into the hilt itself. I mean, it works. And $20, not complaining. This is a collecting piece. And it looks pretty, so it's going to work for that. And for light training, just doing air forms, okay, but I wouldn't call this exactly stellar.